We overthink because we believe thinking will protect us from failure. We build plans, gather data, wait for signs, all while our lives stay perfectly still. But here's the truth. Clarity doesn't come from more research. It comes from messy, imperfect action. How many dreams have you delayed because the moment didn't feel ready? If you don't fully understand this, watch till the end. I promise this story can change your life. Lisa had been coming to the harbor every morning for a week now, watching the boats leave at dawn. She'd rented a small cottage by the sea for what she called a sabbatical, though it felt more like an escape. 2 years, that's how long she'd been planning her career change. 2 years of courses bookmarked but never started. Networking events researched but never attended. Business plans drafted and redrafted until the words blurred together. She had spreadsheets tracking industry trends. She had folders within folders of advice articles. She had a vision board that mocked her from the wall each morning. What she didn't have was a single real step taken toward the life she claimed she wanted. Last month, her younger colleague had left their corporate job and started freelancing. No plan, just courage. Lisa had smiled and congratulated her while feeling something dark twist inside her chest. Envy mixed with shame. The colleague was thriving now, imperfectly but genuinely, while Lisa sat with her perfect plans and her perfectly still life. The exhaustion had become physical. Her mind never stopped spinning, analyzing, recalculating. At night, she'd lie awake, creating backup plans for her backup plans. She felt like a car revving in neutral, engine screaming, going nowhere. Something had to change. She just didn't know what. On her 8th morning at the harbor, an older fisherman approached her. His hands were scarred and weathered, his face creased by decades of sun and salt. "You watch every day," he said simply. Lisa startled. "I'm just thinking." "I can see that." He gestured to his boat. "Help me with the nets?" She hesitated, but something in his calm certainty pulled her forward. They worked in silence for a while, her hands clumsy with the ropes. Finally, she asked, "How do you know when to go out, when conditions are right?" Ismail smiled, still working. "I don't." "But you check the weather, the tides?" "I check, then I go anyway." Lisa stopped, rope in hand. "That sounds reckless." "Does it?" He tied off a knot. "Tell me, how long have you been preparing for storms that haven't arrived?" The question landed like a stone in still water. She opened her mouth, then closed it. He'd somehow seen through her in minutes. "Come back tomorrow," Ismail said gently. "I'll show you something about nets and water." The next morning, Ismail had a fishing net laid out on the dock beside a bucket of seawater. Lisa sat across from him, curious despite herself. He held up the net. "What do you see?" "Rope, knots, a tool." "Potential," he corrected, "but only potential. Sitting here, this net tells me nothing. I don't know if it's strong enough. I don't know what it will catch. I don't know if I tied the weights right." He paused. "I could spend all day examining it, checking each knot, imagining every scenario." Lisa felt her chest tighten. She knew where this was going. Ismael stood and walked to the dock's edge. With a smooth motion, he cast the net into the water. It spread wide, then sank. When he pulled it back, seaweed clung to the mesh. 2 small fish wriggled in the folds. "Now I know," he said. "The net works. Not perfectly. See here, this section needs repair. But it works. I learned more in 30 seconds than I could in 30 hours of staring." He sat back down, water dripping from the net. "You know who taught me this way of thinking? Bruce Lee, the martial artist. He said something that changed how I fish, how I live." Ismael's voice grew quieter. "Empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Water can flow, or it can crash. Be water, my friend." Lisa felt something shift in her chest. "Water doesn't think about the shape of the cup," Ishmael continued. "It doesn't plan its path or wait for perfect conditions. It simply moves. And in moving, it finds its form. It adapts. It discovers what it needs to be." He gestured to the sea. "Every morning, this water is different. Temperature, currents, visibility, all changing. If I waited to understand it completely, I'd never leave shore. But I've learned something. The water teaches you when you're in it, not when you're thinking about it." Lisa stared at the dripping net. "I've spent 2 years," she whispered, 2 years researching, planning, preparing. For what? A career change, something I actually care about. And in 2 years, how many nets have you cast?" The silence that followed hurt. 0. The answer was 0. Ismael's voice was gentle, not judging. "You're solving problems you don't have yet, preparing for failures that might never come. Meanwhile, the real problem, the one you actually have, is that your net sits coiled and dry." He picked up the net again, examining the weak section he'd noticed. "See this? I didn't know it needed repair until I used it. Now I do. Now I can fix it. That's how learning happens. Not in your head, in your hands." Lisa watched him work, his fingers moving with practiced ease. "What if I cast the net and catch nothing?" "Then you cast again," he smiled. "The sea doesn't punish trying. It only ignores waiting." Something about the simplicity of it cracked something open inside her. All her plans, all her research, all her perfect preparation, it was just another way of staying safe, of staying still. "Be like water," Ismael repeated softly. Water doesn't worry about being wrong. It just moves, adapts, finds its way. Your career change doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to be real. Something changed inside Lisa that morning. Not a lightning bolt of motivation, but something quieter, a recognition. She returned to her cottage and opened her laptop. For 2 years, she'd been perfecting her portfolio website, never publishing it because it wasn't quite ready. She published it that afternoon, incomplete sections and all. She sent 3 emails to potential clients, clumsy, imperfect emails that made her hands shake. She sent them anyway. One person replied the next day, then another. Weeks turned into months. Lisa kept coming to the harbor, helping Ismael with his nets before starting her work. She learned to cast, to repair, to accept that every net came back different than expected. Some days brought abundance, some brought seaweed and lessons. Her new career didn't unfold like her spreadsheets predicted. It was messier, harder, more surprising. But it was real. It was moving. She was moving. 6 months later, Lisa sat with a young woman at a cafe. The woman was explaining her dreams, her plans, her need to prepare just a little more before starting. Lisa listened, recognizing herself in every word. When the woman finished, Lisa smiled. "Can I tell you about fishing nets?" she asked gently. The woman looked confused, but nodded. And Lisa began to teach what she'd learned. That clarity doesn't come from thinking about the water. It comes from being in it. That plans sitting in your head are just potential, beautiful but still. That the life you want starts the moment you cast your net, imperfect and uncertain, into the real and waiting sea. Lisa's journey teaches us what many of us forget, that overthinking isn't strategy, it's a hiding place. Like water held in a closed hand, clarity cannot exist in stillness. It only emerges when we move, when we cast the net into uncertain waters and let reality teach us what thinking never could. As James Clear reminds us, overthinking is the art of solving problems we don't have yet. Lisa spent 2 years preparing for storms that never arrived, while the real storm, her standing still, raged inside her. Here's the truth. Thinking creates possibility, but only action creates reality. Every moment spent perfecting the plan is a moment the plan stays trapped in your mind, beautiful but powerless. But the moment you move, messy, uncertain, imperfect, you step into the current where growth actually happens. Your net might come back empty, it might come back tangled, but it will come back teaching you something no amount of research ever could. So start today. Pick one thing you've been planning, researching, perfecting, and do it badly. Send the imperfect email. Publish the unfinished work. Take the clumsy first step. Because the life you're waiting to feel ready for is already waiting for you to begin. Be water, my friend. Flow forward.